Hello friends, I'm George, the nice smelling gentleman. Welcome back to the channel guys. I hope that all of you are doing good. Now, at least where I live, we're in the midst of winter. You know, temperatures are low, it's quite chilly, quite windy, and maybe even a little bit unpleasant. So just to be in sync with the weather, today I've prepared a list of 10 Lattafa fragrances that I think work great in cold weather, you know, in low temperatures. The first fragrance that I'm going to show today is probably one of the cheapest Lattafa fragrances that you can get, and it's called Opulent Oud. Now, I've had this for quite a while, and I have to admit this is a bit of a challenging type of scent. It has a very Middle Eastern vibe to it. The fragrance is all about the mix of agar oud, saffron, rose, and quite a lot of sweetness on the dry down as well. Initially, when I got this fragrance, there was a bit of a sort of a stale wine note in the opening of this one, but after, you know, having it settled for and macerating for quite a long period of time, you know, I've had this for about a year and a half now, that stale wine note has gone, and now the fragrance is a lot more enjoyable. But still keep in mind that this can be you know, too woody or too spicy for some people, and also you need to like rose in order to like this fragrance. But if you like agar oud, if you like rose based fragrances, then definitely you'll enjoy this one. The best thing out of all, as I said, is the price tag. It's super low, costs around about $20 mark, and also it has absolutely fantastic performance. It's a beast mode performer, it's a beast mode projecting fragrance, and it's totally unisex. If you enjoy my videos guys, but for some reason you're not yet subscribed to the channel, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It will really mean a lot to me. And also don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my future uploads. Okay, now the second fragrance that I'm going to show you from the house of Lattafa in this video, unlike the first one, is a very safe blind buy, especially if you enjoy fragrances that have a chocolatey type of sweetness to them. It's called Awsaaf, but the one thing that has in common between the, you know, the two fragrances, you know, Opulent Oud and this one have in common is the fact that they're super cheap. This thing also costs around about the $20 to $25 mark, or here in Europe 20 to 25 euros. This thing it has a very soft and sweet type of a scent profile. You got a patchouli note in here, there's some pink pepper in the opening, some musk on the dry down, the patchouli is there, there's definitely some amber sweetness as well. It gives a sort of an chocolatey vibe to it, and has a nice you know, swift type of sweetness to it. Performance, especially after letting this one macerate for a couple of months, has been absolutely you know, incredible. Considering the scent DNA of this fragrance, I've been easily getting about 9 to 10 hours of performance out of this fragrance, and in fact I was wearing this yesterday and I was really you know, happy with the results. The second fragrance in this video, the Lattafa Awsaaf. The third fragrance that I'm going to show you today comes from the Hayati line of fragrances from Lattafa, and it's called Hayati Gold Elixir. Now this thing is marketed as a unisex fragrance, although in my opinion it leans a little bit to the masculine side, and people compare this fragrance to Cold Profumo from you know, Armani. And to be honest, yes, this is you know, done in a similar style, but I don't think this is a straight up clone of Cold Profumo. You still get that mix of some powdery tonka bean, you know, powdery sweetness from the tonka bean. There's some suede leather. You got you know, some fruits in the opening of this fragrance, but I think this does its own thing and will simply remind you of Cold Profumo. Another very cheap fragrance that usually costs around about the 20-25 euro mark here in Europe, which will translate into something like between $20 to $30 and in the US. And I really like the bottle design of this fragrance. I like the scent profile. Performance here is not as good as the first two fragrances that I showed you, but still it's above average. I've been getting about 7 hours of performance out of this fragrance, and all in all this is a really likable one. The fourth fragrance is called RBA OT Intense. And this is one of the first Lattafa fragrances that actually, you know, started to garner some attention towards Lattafa on the Western markets. It's another fragrance that has a very heavy Middle Eastern vibe to it. The mix here is of some ouds. There's agar oud, there's a lot of sweetness. You got amber, you got a caramel note, there's a sugar note in this fragrance as well. But one thing that makes it a little bit challenging for some people is the amount of smokiness that this one has. It's quite heavy on the incense note. but I still love this one because of especially because of that mix of sweet notes and incense, and also because of the performance. This is a great performing fragrance, and it also works great in cold weather. And again, another very cheap fragrance from the house of Lattafa. Now let's move on to some of the heavier hitters when it comes to fragrances from the house of Lattafa. The next one that I'm going to show you is part of the Lattafa Pride line, and it's called Eternal Oud. This thing is a great clone of MFK's Grand Soir. It comes very interestingly packaged. We have a very interesting bottle design with metal elements, metal cap, really heavy bottle, but also the scent inside is very nice. As I said, it's a great clone of Grand Soir, and you got that very sweet scent profile. You got a very thick, jammy, sweet type of a plum note in this fragrance that's aided by a lot of vanilla, benzoin, tonka bean, amber. All in all, it's a very sweet scent, as I said. And you also got some agar oud somewhere in the background, but it's not a very heavy fragrance on the agar oud. Perfectly unisex, great performer, great projector, and if you can find this for a good deal, and you like very sweet and heavy type of scents, you'll definitely enjoy Eternal Oud from Lattafa. And also this thing really looks nice in it will really look nice in your collection. Next fragrance that I'm going to show you is one of the more famous Lattafa fragrances, and it's called Lattafa Assad. And this thing was probably the first clone of Dior Sauvage Elixir to hit the markets about 2 years ago, and still to this day I think it's a bestseller for Lattafa, and it's a very interesting take on Dior Sauvage Elixir. It's a little bit less spicy, feels to my nose a little bit sweeter, or like a little bit more of a grown-up version of, more subtle version of Dior Sauvage Elixir. Although one thing I've noticed with this fragrance, I've had this in my collection for over a year and a half, is the fact that the more this sits on your shelf, the longer it sits on your shelf, the closer it actually gets to Dior Sauvage Elixir. Still not as spicy in the opening, but the dry down actually has turned to be incredibly similar to Dior Sauvage Elixir. Performance is very good, projection is very good. The only thing that I don't like about this fragrance is the slightly tacky bottle design, but apart from that, this is a great fragrance. The next one will be another fragrance that has gotten quite a lot of hype in the past year and a half or so, and it's called Amere Al Ot Intense Oud. This is one of my most favorite Lattafas, and in fact up until recently probably my most favorite Lattafa. That spot is now taken by another fragrance that I've reviewed last week. But this thing is a really nice fragrance, and especially when it was launched on the Western markets, this used to be very cheap and cost about 20 euros, $20. But since then prices have gone a little bit higher because of the hype, I think, but still a great fragrance. It's another fragrance that relies heavily on the sweet notes. You got the vanilla, amber, you got some sort of a sugary note in this fragrance. There's some ouds, there's oud, there's some smokiness to it as well, although not as smoky as RBA OT Intense, but done in a similar style. This is a little bit less challenging in my opinion. Also, people compare this to By the Fireplace by Mesa Margiela, and I don't think this is a straight up clone, but will get you in the same vibe. All in all, a great little fragrance that creates a really cozy feeling, at least with me when I'm wearing this one. Amere Al Ot Intense. The next fragrance is another one of my most favorite Lattafa fragrances, again from the Lattafa Pride line. This one is called Ishka Sh Gold. This thing is a clone of Rosendo's Mathieu No. 5 and can also serve as an alternative to YSL Baby Cat as well. It's on paper it's quite a simple scent profile. You get a lot of vanilla sweetness, you get a lot of smokiness, and there's a strong suede note in this fragrance as well. But the reality is that this can be quite complex. One thing that a lot of people have mentioned when trying this fragrance is the fact that when you first get this and you spray it for the first couple of times, you get quite a rubbery smell out of it, like a burnt rubber type of smell out of it. And I also was getting this when I got my bottle at first, but just an advice for you guys: if you already have this in your collections, just let this one macerate for a couple of months and you'll be rewarded with a great scent profile. Now that burnt rubbery scent is almost completely gone, and the scent is really enjoyable, and the best thing out of all is the performance of this thing. This is pretty much a beast mode performing fragrance. I easily get about 10 hours of performance on my skin with very strong projection in the first 2 hours. Ishka Sh Gold from the Lattafa Pride line. The next one is one of the newer Lattafa fragrances, one of the newer hyped up beasts from the house of Lattafa, and it's called Kawa. And this of course is a flanker to what's one of the best known Lattafa fragrances, the original Camera. You still get that very sweet scent profile, but Lattafa have added a small twist to make things really interesting, and they've added a nice coffee note to this fragrance, which is very strong, particularly in the opening of the fragrance, but it's still there on the dry down. This thing is like a more intense version of the original Camera. You still get that very sweet scent profile. You know, you got dates, amber, vanilla, you know, a lot of sweet notes in this fragrance, but the addition of you know, that coffee note, as I said, makes the whole scent profile more interesting and more intense. Very strong projecting fragrance, and another pretty much beast mode performing fragrance. At least on my skin, I'll be getting, you know, 9 to 10 hours of performance out of this fragrance easily. And you got really nice packaging and all that stuff. So if you enjoyed the original Camera and you're looking for something done in a similar style but has better performance, definitely check out Kawa. And the last fragrance in this video will be again from the Lattafa Pride line, and one of my newest Lattafa fragrances in my collection, and it's called La Collection d'Antiquités 1886. I just did my review last week of this fragrance, but this is a very interesting scent from Lattafa. It's not a direct clone of anything, but especially in the opening, this thing is quite close to Dior Homme Intense. You got that powdery iris that's here is a little bit sweeter. You got an addition of a chocolate. I think it was white chocolate when it comes to the note breakdown of this fragrance. Makes it sweeter, makes it a little bit more rounded, and also makes it even more unisex than the already what people consider to be a unisex type of scent with the Dior Homme Intense. Very nice, sweet, and good performing fragrance that comes very interestingly packaged, like all new members of the Lattafa Pride line. If you can find this for a good deal, you know, prices here in Europe have ranged, but I got my bottle for roughly about 30 something euros, which I think is pretty decent, especially considering the good scent profile, the good performance, and the very interesting package. The last fragrance in this video, the Lattafa Pride line, La Collection d'Antiquités 1886. So guys, in today's video I showed you 10 Lattafa fragrances that in my opinion work great in cold weather, or in other words in the winter season. I hope that you found this video interesting. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me in my next video. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.